everyone. Thank you again for being here. We're going to reconvene our Board of County Commissioners meeting this afternoon for our public hearing agenda. If there's a motion to accept proofs of public...
Move to approve publication. Second.
There's a motion by... This is a thing we do, like, every time, and so who's going to beat her to it? Motion by Commissioner Delary, second by Commissioner Zembauer. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Motion passes unanimously. We do appreciate so much the fact that so many of you from the public are here this afternoon. I'm going to read through our rules of procedure for public hearings, and these are all quasi-judicial. So the way that we're going to move forward is that the board will, staff, yeah, we do this every time. Staff is going to present the item that is up on the agenda, and the board will have an opportunity to ask questions of staff once that presentation has completed. We'll have an opportunity to ask questions. Members of the public, and then the applicant will have an opportunity to make a presentation, and the board will have a chance to ask questions once the presenter has finished. Members of the public who are interested in speaking, there's a yellow form that was out in the lobby. If you intend to speak, I'd like you to please go ahead and fill out that form now and provide it to Ms. Kuntz so that we kind of have an idea of how many members of the public would like to speak. If you don't want to speak, but you would like the board to have your comments, there's a green form in the lobby that you can complete, and we will pass it down the dais so that each one of us has an opportunity to be aware of your input and comments. We know sometimes not everyone wants to speak publicly at these meetings. If you do decide to speak, you will need to state your name and address clearly for the record, and whether you are for or against the item. Speakers will be given 3 minutes to speak unless they are the official spokesperson for an HOA or a legally organized group, and then they will be given 6 minutes, and that is in lieu of the other members of your organization speaking. If a board member has questions regarding the speaker's comments, an opportunity will be given once the speaker's time has completed. In accordance with the operating policies and procedures of the Seminole County Board of County Commissioners, Section 2.175, Public Participation Before the Board, speakers shall limit their comments to the subject being considered by the board. All public comments shall avoid personal attacks, abusive language, and redundancy. Disrespectful, rude, irrelevant, or slanderous remarks or disruptive behavior may subject the individual to removal from the board chambers. The chairman may curtail repetitious comments. The clerk's office, who is here represented with us, is required to retain any documents or photographs that you present. So if you present anything to the board, be prepared to leave it with the clerk before you go. Once all speakers are heard, the applicant will have an opportunity for rebuttal if necessary. I will then close the public hearing and put the matter in the hands of the commission for a vote. Following a motion and a second and board discussion, a vote will be taken, and any commissioners who do not cast an objecting vote will be considered to have voted in favor of in support of the motion. I mentioned earlier that these are quasi-judicial hearings this afternoon, and we have some special rules that pertain to quasi-judicial public hearings. So while the board welcomes comments from all persons with an interest in those proceedings, Florida law does require that the board's decision in a quasi-judicial action be supported by competent, substantial evidence presented to the board during the hearing on the application. Competent, substantial evidence is such evidence as a reasonable mind would accept as adequate to support a conclusion. There must be a factual basis in the record to support opinion testimony from both expert and non-expert witnesses. Persons presenting testimony may rely on factual information that they present, that is presented by county staff, that the applicant presents, or on factual information included in the county staff report to support your testimony. All persons who present written materials to the board for consideration must assure that a copy of the materials is provided to the clerk for inclusion in the board's official proceeding minutes. Has any commissioner received any oral or written communication regarding the quasi-judicial items? If so, please disclose them now.
Madam Chair, mine I have, and I have submitted them electronically through the clerk of the courts.
Fantastic.
Ditto.
Madam Chair, I've received various phone calls, emails, and/or meetings. I'll be submitting them here today.
Okay. Commissioner Hurd?
I've received various emails, phone calls, and meetings, and have submitted them electronically previously.
Okay. I have ex parte communication on items 19 and 20. I have no ex parte on 18, 21, or 22, or 23. And those were submitted electronically, and then we'll send them down the dais as well. All right. The first item, are there any, we wanted to talk about this, if there were any items that were being continued by staff? Did we want to address that before we?
Good question. Yes, actually, it was a continuance by the applicant, and I can have Mary Markowitz come up and explain that's item number 21.
Okay.
And we can handle that right now if you'd like.
I think it would be good in case there's
Yes.
anyone here that is waiting for 21 to come, and then that way you won't be surprised when 21 comes.
Good afternoon. For the record, Mary Moskowitz, Planning Manager. The appellant has asked for the continuance of item 21 to give them time to apply for a variance. Based on that request, we are recommending that this item be continued to the December 12th meeting, and that would give them sufficient time to go through that variance process.
Okay. So anyone who is here on item 21 know that we'll be taking up a request to continue later on. But we are going to go to 18, and that is going to be presented by Liz Parkhurst, who's the project manager.
Good afternoon. For the record, Liz Parkhurst, Building Division. Item number 18 is a request for an order to be imposed declaring the unoccupied structure and pool located at 1655 E.E. Williamson Road, Longwood, a public nuisance and require corrective action to be taken by the record property owners. On May 23rd, 23, and amended on August 8th, 2023, the board issued a notice of determination of public nuisance for the unoccupied structure and pool. This notice ordered that the structure and pool be repaired or rebuilt in compliance with the Florida Building Code or be abated through demolition. To date, no corrective action has been taken, and there continues to be a steady decline in the condition of the property. The purpose of this public hearing is to provide the record property owners the opportunity to appear before the board to state why the structure and pool does not create a public nuisance and why the property should not be abated. Pursuant to Chapter 168, Seminole County Code, notice of this hearing is required to be served on the record property owners. On August 11, 2023, the Seminole County Sheriff's Office was able to serve the summons and notice of determination on one of the record property owners, Dustin D. Dittmer. As the remaining owners were not served, the notice of determination was published in the Orlando Sentinel for 4 consecutive weeks leading up to this hearing. Since 2014, 16 code enforcement violations were cited for this property, including unsecured pools, stagnant pool water, uncultivated vegetation, remains rubble of a structure, trash, and debris. Of these cited violations, 13 were for the unsecured pool. Since 2019, the Planning Division has cited the property owners 5 times for the unsecured pool on the vacant property. The last one was on September 6, 2023. As the property owners corrected the cited violations within the set deadlines, all of these open cases were closed. But staff is recommending that the board issue an order declaring the unoccupied structure and pool a public nuisance and require corrective action to be taken by October 12, 2023. In the event that the record property owners do not take corrective action by October 12, 2023, it is further recommended that the board direct staff to abate the public nuisance. The building official, Bob Pike, is available for any questions, and that concludes my presentation.
Thank you so much, Ms. Parkhurst. Is the property owner present or a representative? Okay, do you have a presentation you would like to make or anything you'd like to say?
Good afternoon, board members. This is Francis Mendez on behalf of Dustin Dittmer, the property owner. As the board heard, there have been 16 different violations that have all been taken care of by my client. Every single time the code enforcement officers have come out there, they have complied with it. Unfortunately, Hurricane Ian caused quite a bit of damage to the building. The property is not insured. He has applied to FEMA for relief, and he did not receive any kind of relief from FEMA to knock down the building. The cost of removing the structure, just the structure itself, the estimates are between $60,000 and $80,000 to remove. We heard now that the county would like the pool to be filled in. As you saw from the aerial, it is an Olympic-sized pool. The number of cubic square feet to fill in something like that I think it's what,
875,000 gallons.
Yes, 875,000 gallons. This is a large, large pool. The cost of the cubic feet of cement, or excuse me, of dirt to put into that pool would be north of $100,000. The simple fact is it's extremely expensive to do that. We are looking to take down the building. There's no denying that the building is damaged beyond repair. The pool itself, however, has an 8-foot pool, which does, correct me if I'm wrong, exceed what the county requires as far as securing the pool. I believe that the code requires a fence to be 6 feet high, and it has an 8-foot fence around it. The reason the pool keeps getting opened up is because somebody goes in and cleans out the vegetation in there, pumps the pool out, sometimes that lock isn't reset. So the owner is doing what it can, or what he can. It's basically a very expensive property to maintain with no income coming in from the property to help abate that. We're in the process of getting quotes to take down the building. We agree that the building needs to come down. We just need more time.
Okay. Any questions? Commissioner Herr?
I'll just be very honest with you. Unfortunately, this building is in my traffic pattern, and therefore I would ask the question, this has been going on for at least a decade.
Yes.
So us granting you another 60 days would accomplish what? I'm just confused by the request in general.
The property has been for sale. The problem, and I don't know if I can, there's a way to put this up on the screen.
Thank you.
There's a microphone there.
Problem is there is a diagonal easement recorded across the property. This has made selling this property next to impossible. That easement is for a cell tower that sits next to I-4. That cell tower is owned by AT&T, but it's managed by 2 different sub-companies that have been incredibly difficult to deal with, to say the least. If it wasn't for this easement, we would have sold this property a long time ago. We're now basically trying to evict the cell tower to get their attention, to basically get them to reconfigure the easement to come down the property line, come across, and come down and over to the cell phone tower. That's the only remedy for selling this property. Otherwise, it's 5 acres that's unusable. There's no build. As a matter of fact, I believe the property purchaser was going to be present today, but basically there is a commitment, and this is an exception to the title, that this easement is creating an encumbrance across the property. So the traffic pattern of Ms. Herr will know that the building sits at the front of the property, and we agree that the property needs to be taken down. It's just getting somebody to take on what is considered a relatively small job, and they're basically extorting the cost of it being a small job that it's making it so expensive. So we think we have somebody lined up that can do it. Permits have to be pulled to do the work, and that basically is how this would be taken care of. Filling the pool, however, is an extremely expensive process. This is a pool built in the 70s and is made with lots of concrete. This is not a residential pool. This is a large Olympic pool that the buyers would be responsible for removing. And now, unfortunately, because of the delay, because of this easement, is now back on the shoulders of the seller, with very little chance of recuperating that money from the sale of the property.
Commissioner Herr, do you have a follow-up question to that answer?
I don't.
Okay. Commissioner Zembauer and then Delary.
Absolutely, we're good.
So when I look at this, and I understand here what you're saying, and this has been going on, as Commissioner Herr has indicated, for close to a decade, this easement and right-of-way issue obviously has existed this entire time.
Correct.
So I'm not buying that argument. I mean, if you want to sell the property, you should be able to sell it. Reach an agreement with a viable buyer, contingent on the easement being moved or whatever the case might be. But, the reality is, when I look at this and I see things in here where obviously people have gotten in and done some vandalizing, when I see spray paint sprayed on this, escape quarantine, I would assume that was during COVID. That's been a couple of years. And albeit there are costs associated, huge costs, with demolition, filling in swimming pools and so forth, that is the responsibility of the property owner. And that comes hand in hand with ownership. So, the district commissioner will, I'm sure, make a recommendation, but I think this needs to be handled sooner rather than later.
We don't disagree with you. What we're saying is that there's two things that are
Was
being...
that a question, Commissioner Zemmer?
It was not.
Okay. Well, if you have a question, we'll be happy to have you answer it. Commissioner Delary.
Thank you, Madam Chair, and it's more towards staff, Ms. Parker. Is there a daycare on this facility, on this property?
The daycare is over to the southwest corner of the property. That's where the easement is going straight along.
From what I remember, and I could be wrong, I think the daycare is right next to the cell tower, correct?
It's close to the cell tower, yes.
Well, I believe it's pretty close to it.
Yeah.
Because the infrastructure for the cell tower is on the side of the building for the daycare, if I'm not mistaken.
I believe so.
And so the property for the daycare, is that owned by this property owner?
No, sir.
Okay, so it's totally separate then? Okay.
Yes, sir.
All right, thank you.
Commissioner Constantine, do you have any questions for the property owner?
No, I've spent a lot of time on this.
Okay. All right. If we have any other questions, we'll be happy to call you out.
Our question is would it be sufficient for the board to consider removing the building but fencing in the pool so that eventually we can sell the property subject to an easement and remove the nuisance of the building,
So
securing it with the pool with an 8-foot fence?
I certainly appreciate you posing that question, but what we're going to do is if you're done with your presentation, we can have you have a seat. We'll hear from the public, and then if you would like to rebut any of the public comment, you're welcome to do that at that time. Ms. Kuntz, are there any members of the public who wish to address this item?
I have Troy Cox.
Gentlemen, you can have a seat.
I waive.
I'm sorry?
He waves.
Mr. Cox, was it?
Yes.
Okay, Mr.
He
Cox waives his opportunity to speak. Are there any other people who wish to address this? Any other members of the public who perhaps neglected to fill out a form who would like to speak on this item? No? All right. I'm not sure that you have any items that you need to rebut at this point. Commissioners? Commissioner Constantine?
I would just like to get a report from Mr. Pike on this particular thing, if I could. I think that some of the concerns need to be put on the public record.
And I will say, Mr. Pike, I'm sorry, before you answer Commissioner Constantine's question, that we'll go ahead and close the public hearing because there are no members of the public who wish to speak. Okay, Mr. Pike, I'm sorry.
Bob Pike, building official, Seminole County. Yes, sir. What's your question?
Well, I just said, state the public concerns about this property.
Well, obviously through the pictures you can see that the building has been damaged severely. The skin of the building's been blown out. It's a red iron building where the structural members are still intact. The windows have been blown out or knocked out. We've had people go through and use that, I guess, for, I don't know if it's kids playing inside or whatever. They've done some damage in there, some graffiti, as Commissioner Zimbauer stated. I can't believe the front doors haven't been broken out yet, but the rest of the building's all been boarded. It has been posted as unsafe, but the board seemed to continually keep to be ripped off where people go in and access it, which is a nuisance. It's a danger for possible vagrants or kids to get in there, and as Commissioner Delary had stated, there's a daycare next door. So there are concerns to the public with this building. and it's been going on for quite a while. The building could technically be restored, but it's going to be a lot of money. And of course, you know, the owner is saying that the demo would be expensive. I would recommend getting estimates for that, several bids. I think that cost is probably high, quite a bit high. The pool now is, that is an Olympic-sized pool. That would take a lot of fill if you were to take the pool out, other than you could bust out the bottom of it and fill it in with dirt if you so choose, or you could leave it and fence it in and leave it to the next owner, but that would be probably a mosquito pond at that point if you want to leave it in that state it currently is in. As you can see, the water is sitting in there, and it's a mosquito pond. So hopefully that answers your question.
Commissioner Kuzenbauer.
I think my question is maybe more for Rebecca. The question was raised about destroying the structure, leaving the pool, and putting a fence around it. Would that not create a non-conforming use on this property if that were allowed or permitted to happen?
Technically, it would be a non-conforming use because it would no longer comply with the originally approved site plan.
Right.
But if it were an issue where we were trying to come to a, I guess, compromise, then that is an option, but like Bob said, that could create its own set of problems.
Sure. I just wanted to make sure. I felt it probably would be non-conforming use, but I just wanted to make sure that would be the case. No longer complies with the original DO and site order and the whole 9 yards.
Correct.
Yeah, okay, thank you. Nothing else.
Commissioner Hurd.
I just wanted, for clarification purposes, Mr. Pike, to ask, you aren't suggesting that we approve a fence around this pool. You were just suggesting that that's a possibility. The request on the table is to allow that to happen, which was being asked kind of.
No, I'm just saying, by the pool code, you would have to have a fence to secure the pool to keep the public out. If you so choose to leave the pool there, that's not my decision, that's the board's, but the choices are, if you take the building out and leave the pool, obviously it's an issue with zoning and their requirements, but there's nothing to say you couldn't leave the pool and fence it in, but and it would take a lot of dirt to fill that, so that's quite a bit of an expense. So I'm not suggesting anything. I'm just saying that pool code would procure a fence around that to keep it secure if you were going to leave it.
And that would be the same, this is not a question, this is a statement. That would be the same fence that gets opened up periodically and left open. So I'll just leave it at that. That wasn't a question.
Yeah.
Yeah, Mr. Gray would like to weigh in.
And just to be clear, that is not staff's recommendation. Staff's recommendation
Understood. That's what I was trying to get out there.
is to remove both.
Right.
Okay, any other questions? Any other comments? All right. Is there a?
What you got, Lee?
Well, I was just going to say, does he want to rebut?
There was no public comment to
Okay,
rebut.
all right.
Yeah.
But, well, then, I think we all have had, in one form or another, interaction with this particular property. Commissioner Hurd said she drives by it all the time. I remember back actually swimming in that swimming pool a couple of three more decades ago. And I don't think there's any question that not only is this a nuisance, but this has gone on long enough, and especially as Commissioner DeLore pointed out about the school being right next door.
Daycare, not a school.
Daycare, excuse me. This is a health, safety, and welfare problem that needs to be ratified or eradicated. And unless it gets fixed immediately, I think we need to take action. So I'll recommend that the Board of County Commissioners adopt the resolution issuing an order to declare the existence of a public nuisance at 1655 E.E. Williamson Road, Longwood, requiring corrective action by October 12, 2023, and authorize necessary corrective action by the county in the event that the nuisance is not abated by the record
Second.
owners.
There's a motion by Commissioner Constantine, second by Commissioner Herr. Any other discussion? All those in favor say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Motion passes unanimously. For item number 19, the project manager is Annie Silloway. This is the Good Poor, also in Commissioner Constantine's district.
Good afternoon, Annie Silloway, Senior Planner of Development Services. The applicant is requesting a rezone from C1 Retail Commercial to PD Plan Development for the Good Poor alcohol beverage establishment that would allow package sales of beer, wine, and liquor, and to allow for minimal on-site alcohol consumption, which would be limited to tastings. According to the applicant, the Good Poor is a wine and spirits retail marketplace that caters to the mindset of self, society, and planet. The Good Pour is not just a typical wine and spirit shop. The Good Pour's outside-the-box concept is to donate a portion of the profits from wine and spirit sales to a charity of the customer's choice. The subject property is zoned C1, retail commercial, and alcohol beverage establishments are allowed an allowable use with a special exception approval. Since there will be tastings on site, the site would be encroaching into the required 1,000 linear feet distance separation requirement from the First Baptist and Iglesias Christian Church for on-premise consumption. The PD Plan Development zoning, if approved by the board, would allow the 1,000 linear feet separation requirement from a church to allow for the alcohol beverage establishment, which is permitted by special exception in the C1 Retail Commercial Zoning District. Per the Seminole County Land Development Code measurements, the site is located approximately 825 feet from the nearest church. The shortest distance measurement from the property line of the site and the church property is approximately 220 feet. Due to the location of the existing buildings, a person would not be able to access the site along the shortest distance. The applicant held a community meeting on April 8th, and no one from the public attended. The Planning and Zoning Commission met on August 2nd, 2023, and voted unanimously to recommend the Board of County Commissioners deny the request for a rezone for the Good Pour. The reason for the denial from the P&Z Commission was that the Commission made a finding that the applicant did not demonstrate sufficient protection from potential adverse impacts of limited on-site alcohol consumption within 1,000 feet from a church. Based on the findings made by the P&Z Commission, the applicant has revised the request and agreed to include enhancements based on the crime prevention through environmental design, SEPTED, by adding landscape buffers around the north and west portion of the site, as well as around the building. Additional sighting and light poles will also be added to the building and around the site. Staff finds that the addition of landscaping and site lighting will provide the site with sufficient surveillance to mitigate any potential adverse impacts. During the P&Z meeting, the First Baptist Church did speak out against the project due to the homeless community and homeless camps in the area that would be drawn to the business. The applicant has provided a report from the Seminole County Sheriff's Office showing there are no homeless camps or homeless people in the area, as well as an incident report from January 1st, 2022 to July 31st, 2023 to show that no reports have been called in on 2648 West State Road 434, the old True Value building. Staff finds the request, Planning and Development Zoning classification to be consistent with the Seminole County Land Development Code and the Seminole County Comprehensive Plan. Staff recommends Board of County Commissioners adopt the proposed ordinance enacting a rezone from C1 Retail Commercial to PD Plan Development and associated development order and master development plan for the Good Pour alcohol beverage establishment on approximately 0.78 acres located on West State Road 434, approximately 2,860 feet west of Montgomery Road. And that concludes my presentation.
Thank you, Ms. Silloway. Any questions for Ms. Silloway? Commissioner Zembauer.
Mine is more of a structure of the presentation. We're not treating this any different than any other alcohol sales facility, are we? In our consideration of meeting the code?
I don't think so. The only thing that we're considering is the encroachment into the 1,000-foot separation.
Sure, okay. And I was questioning all the beginning talk about charity monies being given and part of the proceeds and that, and whether that was something we were considering as part of the code. And I'm assuming that's not. We're treating them just like any other.
We're treating them just like anybody else.
Okay, great. Thank you.
Yep.
Any other questions for Ms. Silloway? All right, we'll call you back up if we have any.
Okay, thank you.
Is the applicant here, and do they wish to make a presentation?
Yes, please.
All right, please come forward. You'll state your name and address for the record, and then the floor is yours.
Thank you.
Good afternoon. My name is Ray Horrell. I'm a co-founder of The Good Pour, and this is also Mike Huska, managing partner with The Good Pour. Thank you for having us. Andy did such a good job covering our concepts, so I'll kind of top line a few things, but I certainly recognize why we're here. You know, this company was started with the idea that being great means doing good. Born and raised in Seminole County myself. My parents still live in Seminole County. Mike also lives in Seminole County. I hope the takeaway is that we want to create something far bigger than ourselves with this team, but also something that Seminole County embraces. You know, our goal is to build the largest vehicle mankind's ever had to give back. You know, this was the idea of being able to harness retail to help so many in need, and we'll talk more about that here shortly. But for us, we certainly understand why we're here today. We understand, you know, the gray cloud that comes with the industry. But I do hope that the takeaway is today is that we're trying to do something different, something good, and something that you guys are very proud of and proud to have in your backyard. The concept, we talked about it. Yes, we are a wine and spirits marketplace, but for us, the big difference is being able to give back on every transaction and let customers pick where those proceeds go. We lead with purpose and people. That's our mission. That's how this company was built. That's what suppliers and brands and the neighborhood where we have worked elsewhere has rallied around. It's just this, there's a lot of heart, and the purpose is genuine. And I think you'll see from some of our activation already that we've been out in the market, out in the communities helping so many in need. On every price tag, as you see, we do let customers know how much is going back, and we let them pick where it goes. But beyond wine and spirits, we sell many things in our store. Wine and spirits is one piece of what we sell. It's not everything that we sell. We want to create experiences that bring customers in for many reasons other than wine and spirits. So you'll see stationery and coffee and flowers and olive oils. It's a marketplace. The Good Pour is not discount liquor and neon signs. It's an experience. And for us, we want to create something that's positive. Every piece of messaging and marketing that you see from our company is going to be about being a good neighbor, about helping one another. And right now, in a world that feels more divided than ever, we hope to be the example for others to follow. This is our technology that we built that gives the customer choice of where the proceeds go. They get to pick from 7 causes that resonate with them, and then inside each one of those causes, they can pick their charity of choice. So as we say, we're going to support your purpose out of our profits, and we're going to bet on humanity's want to do good. We have an incredible team that's touched some of the biggest brands in the world that have all left success to build something significant. You know, we all want to build something far bigger than ourselves, and we want to do it right here in our backyard. Whether we were working with UCF or many other local companies or big businesses like Disney and Constellation Brands, we have a remarkable team that's going to help this company take off. But for us, being a Lake Brantley graduate, Teague Middle School, Kaiba Elementary, it just feels destiny for me to be able to do this in Seminole County with these amazing people. Here's a few of our partners that we've worked with. One big piece for us that is different is that, you know, we see ourselves as the catalyst, the gateway to get to that millennial donor. We get to activate a younger demographic to help fund all of these amazing nonprofits that are doing so much good in the community. And as I mentioned, even pre-opening locations, we've already been out in the market helping organizations like Second Harvest, the Sharing Center. We're 4 years running now where we've been able to support feeding the homeless right before Thanksgiving and doing so much good right here in our backyard. And it's really just taken off. It's infectious. We've attracted so many brands, so many companies that want to lean in and do good with us. But you see our efforts with Leukemia and Lymphoma Society, Habitat for Humanity, Make-A-Wish, you name it. There's definitely an energy right now to do good. You know, we call it today's conscious consumer or responsible retail. I think right now, today's customer, they're looking for something positive, something different. and we're building it with an amazing group of people. And this has led us to have opportunities all throughout Central Florida. And our hope is the Good Pour is soon a brand and a company that communities welcome, and they celebrate when they come to their communities. You see us here, we have locations opening all throughout Central Florida, and we certainly hope that we can add Longwood to our list as well. Leading the way for us in Longwood is a great operator, but even a better person, Mike Kuska and his wife Chris, who currently own Hurricane Grill and Wings and Pickles, and we're super excited to bring them into the fold. Mike is a managing partner with our company. He'll be a big piece of the puzzle, and I'll let him speak to his efforts so far.
I'm Mike Huska, 210, good God, Knob Hill Circle. 210 Knob Hill Circle.
Behind
Longwood.
every good man.
And to tell him where he lives. We're supposed to leave with that, right?
Presentation? She knows more about that.
Anyways, I live about 2 minutes away from this property, so it's important to me to get started in Longwood if we can. We do have plans of going into Lake Mary, Sanford, and Oviedo, all in Seminole County. But Longwood, this location being a minute from my house, a minute from our one restaurant, and about a mile and a half from Cole's Deli, our second restaurant, I think it's important that we get started in our backyard if we're able to. This is the building in question right here. It's a True Value Ace Hardware store that went out of business about a year ago. It's been sitting vacant ever since. Part of that is because we've been working on this PD rezone, and fortunately for us, the owners of the building have been extremely patient with us. They love our concept and really want us to come in there. I'm sure they could have rented it to someone else, but like I said, they've been extremely patient. But this is the building in its current condition. I know we're sticking to the facts of the zoning and whatnot, but I think it's important for people to understand, too, what the building is going to look like. So these are the renderings of what this particular building is going to look like in the outside. Here's what the inside renderings are going to look like. So as you can see, again, it's not your typical quote-unquote liquor store that really has a negative, reputation out there. Wide open spaces, gifting, a lot more things for sale than just wine, spirits, and liquor. As far as the job creation and whatnot, we bought the 2 restaurants within the last 4 years. When we took over those 2 restaurants, which again is very close to this area, 32779 zip code, we had a total of 29 employees, and today we have over 75 employees, most of which live right here in the Okaiva area, and we're sure bringing the Good Pour to this location, we're going to be able to add many, many more to that. And I will also note, not that it matters again to the zoning, but we have nobody that works at any of our restaurants that makes minimum wage. They all make a good working wage, and most of which have been with us for over 3 years, just because of the work environment that we create, and we have no doubt we can do the same thing here. I want to thank Annie. You can see the staff recommendations. She's been fantastic. This is the first time I've personally ever done a PD rezone. So I was a real pain in the neck to her, I'm sure, although she won't admit it. She's been fantastic, and I want to put that out there for the record. We did hold a community meeting. Nobody showed up in opposition for the community meeting, but we did have some opposition at the P&Z, which kind of surprised us, actually. As I got started with this property, because I know you may be thinking, why would you pick this place? Seminole County is a big area. Other than the fact that it's close to my house, it's close to our other 2 businesses, so I know we have a lot of support from the community who've been very vocal about that. When we took over the restaurants, we had to get a full liquor license. It just had a beer and wine license. So I went through that process twice. It was pretty easy because we serve food, so it's a little bit different. It was a special exception. I went to the county when I started this process and was told, before I do anything, go to the property appraiser, get them to fill out the doc, so you know how far away from the church that it actually is. Because if you're within 1,000 feet or inside 1,000 feet, you're going to have to do a PD rezone, and that could be a 6 or 7 month process, which obviously wasn't something that I wanted to do. I went to Sarah Hunsinger, the property appraiser. I got this doc that you'll see right there, signed off by Sarah, and it shows 1,128 feet. We celebrated, we contacted the broker, we said, okay, we're great, we're good to go. And we negotiated an LOI, executed the LOI, we negotiated the lease terms, and we were off and running. I filled out the application for the package sales liquor license, which I want to, again, be very clear, there's no on-site consumption. There is a wine tasting. If someone comes in and is trying to sell their brand, someone can have a little taste of it, and that is it. When I got the application put in, I got feedback then that the county, in their ordinance, they measure it a little bit differently than they do with the property appraiser. So the property appraiser measures it by way of vehicle, where you could come out on 434, turn into San Lando Road, which is where the church is located, and that was 1,128 feet. However, if you come out of the property and you walk by public right-of-way into the back, it's inside the 1,000 feet. Well, by this point, understand, we're already negotiated with the landlord, had several meetings with them, lining up contractors and everything else. So while we thought it was going to be another 6-month process, we thought it was well worth it. It's turned into a little bit longer than that, but here we are today. With the opposition stating that, in their opinion, there was a homeless issue there, I respectfully disagree. I live 0.2 of a mile away. I can walk to this property. I have 4 kids that all went through these schools and still live in this area, 3 grandkids and 1 on the way. If I thought there was a real issue, I assure you, I would not be trying to put something there that would add to an existing problem. But it's my job to make sure. We're going to spend a lot of money doing this building. As you can see, it's going to be a very nice looking property. I had drone coverage, did a drone video, took still pictures of the whole area. Not just right over top of the building. I'm talking behind the church, everywhere in all the wooded area, because there's a lot of concern that there's homeless camps. We found absolutely nothing back there with the drone footage. I met with the sergeant of Seminole County, and that used to be his district where he, was on the beat, and he knew of no homeless camps there. And I said, well, I want to go a step further. Even though I pulled police reports from January of 2022 through July 31st, 23, and there was not one incident of anything that had to do with any vandalism, crime, anything with vagrants, homeless, or anything like that, not one. So I thought that was important that I got that from him, but I also pulled them going even further back. He pulled them from this year, I pulled them from the last year and a half. I then went to Seminole County, and I got the homeless report. 7% of the homeless in Seminole County are in Longwood, most of which are in the 3275 zip code down near Castleberry. I also then got where the known homeless camps are. These are all the known homeless camps right here. And this, you can see, is the Good Poor right here. So the closest known homeless camp to the west is down in Castleberry. The closest one to the east is Forest City, Altamont Springs off of 436. So we felt pretty good about that, obviously. We raised a lot of money in the past, actually, through one of the restaurants for a local Wekiva charity called Bags of Hope. Bags of Hope is all through Central Florida, and they feed the homeless, but they also do things like they take tents and sleeping bags and blankets and whatnot to all the known homeless camps. And if anybody knows where homeless are in the woods, it's going to be these folks, because they are trusted by these folks. In my opinion, the homeless in Seminole County, not that there's not a homeless issue, obviously we know there are homeless people out there, but these are folks where their kids go to our schools. They don't want to be known. They trusted this family to come back and bring things to them, so I reached out to them. This is a letter from them stating that they pretty well know where everybody is. They have a good thumbprint on the county in Central Florida, and there are no known homeless camps anywhere in or around this property. So, I also, as Annie mentioned in her report, we got a SEPTED report. We had them come out from the county, do an assessment of our area, the building, everything we could do to, make sure there is no crime whatsoever, whether it be from homeless or anyone else. So again, while I respectfully disagree that we have a homeless issue that is and that we would actually make it worse, I will say if there is any issues like that, we will do nothing but make it better. We have a building that's been sitting vacant for a year, and there's still not one incident report from it. I don't think that, doing it the way we do it, especially our marketing, our branding, we don't carry low-end products. We don't even market prices of products in our store. We market the give back. We market the charity. So I just don't see how we would add to any potential issue there. Okay?
Thank you.
That's all I got.
Does that complete your presentation?
Yes, ma'am.
All right, fantastic, thank you. Any questions? No? I think we'll let you know if there are any others, but right now I think you're okay to have a seat.
All right.
Thanks. Are there any members of the public who wish to speak?
Yes.
Wait, we lost your microphone for some
Mic's
reason.
going.
I'll talk loud.
Oh, there it is.
There you go.
I have Michelle Smith, Nina Yon, and Bree Watson. They're the first three.
Okay, that's
And
great.
I have a couple of written comments I'll share with you.
Yeah, if you would pass those down. And I'm not sure how many folks are here to speak in support versus opposition, but I'll remind everyone that the board's purview today is looking at the facts, the competent, substantial evidence around the request, not whether they've got a great mission. We love the mission. Mission's fine, but that's not what we're basing our decision on today. Okay. Ms. Yan.
Good afternoon, everyone. Good afternoon, Commissioners. My name is Nina Yan. My address is 600 North Highway 1792 in Longwood, and that is the Sharing Center business address.
All right, the floor is yours for 3 minutes.
Thank you. You know, I have a prepared statement, but I want to go back to what Ray opened with. He mentioned earlier that we lead with people in heart, and that really resonated with me because that has been my experience and the Sharing Center's experience with the Good Poor. But prior to Good Poor was formed last year, in 2019, Marsha and her family, which is, Marsha is Ray's mom, she contacted the Sharing Center with a heartfelt request that she and her whole entire family and the children were passionate about serving and giving back to the community. And this specifically was around Thanksgiving time. So they wanted to have a Thanksgiving neighborly lunch for those that are experiencing homelessness in Seminole County. So their vision was to host a Thanksgiving lunch in collaboration with the Sharing Center right in our parking lot. And we gladly supported their effort because they're helping us and feeding our homeless clients. So in 2019, we had our first partnership, and ever since 2019, every year, they come back to do our Thanksgiving neighborly lunch for those that are experiencing homelessness. We have since then collaborated with the family for the first time in 2019, and then last year with the Good Poor. Ray and his family and the social enterprise connects the community with causes that they're passionate about. The family and the Good Poor team have become great partners with the Sharing Center, having shared over $8,000 in in-kind support for those who are experiencing homelessness. And so we are grateful for their partnership, and we look forward to many ways that the Good Poor will give back to many nonprofits in our community. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Yan.
Michelle Smith.
And who is after Ms. Smith?
Bree Watson, and then Juliana Rossi.
Okay, Ms. Okay, so Ms. Rossi and Ms. Watson, did I say that right? Or do not, are waiving their right to speak.
Okay.
All right.
Good afternoon, County Commissioners, Madam Chairman. Let me state for the record, the Good Poor has been a very good neighbor for us. I'm located at 920 Bell Avenue, Winter Springs, Florida, and I'm really here to do two things. One, to provide my reference for the organization in support of this business for the Longwood area, but also to provide some credentials for them as well. We, here at the Sharing Center, we have partners that allow us to do what we do in bridging the gap here in the community, and then we have strategic partners. Partners are people that we work with to dovetail our various services to help those that are in need. Our strategic partners, however, like the Good Poor and the Second Harvest Food Bank, are people that walk with us. They walk beside us in this journey. So for their credentials, while we are grateful for their support, their credentials for the community include just really genuinely being a good steward for the community. Not only are they responsible with their customers, but on their website you can even see the responsibility statement that they require everyone that does business with them to affirm. And I think that's a marvelous way to show that they're going to be a good steward of their responsibilities here in the community. What you'll also see and learn about them is that their other purpose, I love that they say their concept is to pour more into what matters. What it really boils down to is their purpose to give back, and they've done that exceedingly for the Sharing Center, which again allows us to help more in our community. For the annual Thanksgiving luncheons that we put on, they literally feed 200 to 250 meals for the Thanksgiving celebration. And these are folks that are frankly just grateful to have a hot shower and a haircut and food and a place to go if we can find them shelter. We put on a full spread, which is a hot-plated, tented meal with live music, and we do this to really support the dignity that we want to treat these people and to help lift them up into the next stage of their lives. So I'm going to read to you, in addition to my own personal reference, I'd like to read to you a letter that Second Harvest Food Bank has asked me to read on their behalf. Dear Seminole County Commission members and members of the community, right here in Seminole County, 1 in 8 individuals is at risk of going to bed hungry tonight. Often these are working class families working 1 or 2 jobs to make ends meet, and it just isn't enough. One small situation, such as a car breaking down or an unexpected medical bill, can cause families to go from stability to needing food assistance literally overnight. We're proud to say the Good Poor is standing side by side with the Second Harvest Food Bank to help put food on the tables for so many of our neighbors. Over the past year, the Good Poor has donated enough funding to provide over 8,000 meals and partnered with us on our biggest fundraising effort of the year to help raise funding to provide an additional 1.1 million meals. I speak for all of us at the Second Harvest Food Bank when I share how proud we are to partner with the Good Poor as we help fight hunger in Central Florida. That concludes my presentation.
Thank you, Ms. Smith.
Thank you. This is... I'm leaving you.
Okay.
Thank you.
Susan Boucher, Glenn Tyndall, and Deborah Russell.
Okay. And are these speakers in favor? Or
The first one is Susan Boucher. The next 3 are in opposition.
Okay. If I could ask the other names that were just called, if you wouldn't mind just going ahead and lining up along that wall so that when Ms. Boucher is done, you can be ready to roll.
Can I have candy?
Absolutely.
Thanks.
Hi, thank you. I'm Susan Boucher, and that's okay.
Sorry.
I'm Maitland, Florida. Along with my husband, Ron, who's out here, we've been Central Florida residents since 1990, and I want to adhere to your rules of you saying you don't want to hear all about the mission, you don't want to hear any of that.
We love hearing the mission. We just
I know.
can't take
I
it
don't
into
want to
consideration.
I don't want to be redundant, so what I have prepared is, I'm putting to the side, I just want to say that I have a long history in sales and development. I've worked for nonprofit organizations, including Habitat for Humanity. I've done lots of programming. I've worked for UCF Foundation, which helps raise funds to educate, everyone that wants to be educated. And what I have experienced in my work in fundraising is that there's so much need. There's so much need throughout our community, throughout Central Florida. And the whole reason I came to work with the Good Poor as the Director of Strategic Partnerships or Business Development or whatever you want to call my title is because I recognize that need. And there's a really great opportunity within our organization, the Good Poor, to give to multiple organizations. And if we have homeless in our community, well, we're going to make sure that what we're doing helps alleviate those problems. We're going to help educate. We're going to work with organizations operations that provide jobs for folks, that provide hot meals, that provide the things that we are, are challenged with in our society. We have an $80 billion industry, the wine and spirits industry, and if we can just take our little piece of it, our little share, and do something really good with it, we think that some of the problems that are considered opposition won't be problems. We want to really help, and we want to really do some good.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
The next speaker, would you call the name again for us, please?
This is Deborah Russell. And then we have Glenn Tyndall and Timothy Taylor.
Okay, Mr. Taylor? If you would state your name and address for the record, please.
Okay, my name is Deborah Peraldo Russell, and my address is 111 Russell Street, Altamont Springs, 32701. So I wrote my thing because I'm not a very articulate speaker, but I love the Sharing Center. I go there and shop all the time. I drop off donations. They're a wonderful organization. The Second Harvest Food Bank is also wonderful. Our church has several members who work there. And so I'd just like to say that I've lived in Seminole County since 1966. We moved there when I was 12 years old. And back then, I-4 had just opened. There were no businesses on any corner of the exit at I-4 and 434. There was a stop sign at the intersection of 436 and 434. I went to Bear Lake Elementary. I was bused to South Seminole Junior High, and I graduated from Lyman in 1972. My husband and I now reside in Rolling Hills area. He grew up there and graduated from Lyman in 1973. I've gone to the First Baptist Church of San Leandro Springs since 1966, when our family moved there. My family has attended there for almost 60 years. And we love Seminole County. We loved the rural nature of Seminole County when we moved there. And we had 5 acres, which is now part of Lake Brantley High School. We realized there's been a lot of change. It started growing the minute we moved there. It exploded out there. And we had built a new sanctuary there as after the first couple of years. Now we're called the Church of the Springs. But and Supasos is our partner church there. And we've, adding a liquor store so close to our church does not seem like a prudent idea for the area. We already have a smoke shop down the street, which I guess is more than 1,000 feet. I don't know what they had to do, but that used to be a florist shop and a dry cleaner area. So there are many families, that participate in that area. Right on the parking lot where this business is going to be is a U-Paint pottery store. So when you drive into the business, to the right is the old True Value store. To the left is the U-Paint pottery store with little kids coming in and out of there all the time. So I just think the Good Poor sounds like they have a good business model, and they do a lot of good things for different causes, but I think they should find a new location for their business.
Thank you so much. The next speaker, if you would state your name and address for the record, and you'll have 3 minutes.
Should I give these to?
What do you want?
Yes.
Oh, okay.
Yes. Thank you. Thank you. Go ahead and go.
Yeah.
Well, you need to give your name and address for the record, and then Ms. Kuntz is going to hit the timer button.
Okay.
That was my subtle reminder.
Oh, I was ready.
Sure.
This time.
Thank you.
My name is Glenn Tyndall. I live at 289 Lazy Acres Lane, Longwood, Florida. I've lived in the same home for 50 years. There again, went to Lyman High School, Millwee. I've been a member of First Baptist Church, Church of the Springs, for nearly 40 years. And I've got to say I'm a little taken aback and surprised. The gentleman shared this information as far as the sheriff's reports and things like that. He was respectful in his disagreement. I would also have to be the same with him, because I have personally seen in the last year and a half, we have had an issue at the church with homeless folks that come, they pass out, fall asleep in front of the doorways of the church. They're out there. We have a playground for the kids. We have basketball courts back there in the back. We have picnic tables back there that we have had to call for service. Whether or not if they made a police report on it, I don't know. All I can tell you is there were calls made to the non-emergency number of the sheriff. They sent someone out. We were told by them, do not approach these people. They are, some of them, not all, but some of them can be very aggressive. I witnessed that firsthand with a sheriff that was trying to wake a gentleman who was laying down in front of the church office. He's in full uniform, sidearm, everything else. He yelled at him from 20 feet, wake up, no response. He got about within 5 feet of him, same thing. And whenever the man did wake up, he woke up with his fist clenched and his arm back. So we were told, do not approach these people. We have had, about a month and a half ago, we had a break-in at the church. Somebody broke into the sanctuary, stole items from the sound booth. We just got word Friday that they know who this person is. They won't divulge where the stuff is, of course. But apparently this person is homeless and is well known to the police department, the sheriff's department. I've gotten calls. We have 2 church buses for children that are on the property. I've gotten calls that the sheriff has come by and has seen people getting into there, trying to move into them. We have children's ministries at the church that play back there on the playground, on the basketball courts. In the very far back corner, there's a wide open field. They play football, soccer, that sort of thing. Plus, we have older folks that are on wheelchairs, walkers. They get brought by medic van, that sort of thing. So that's concerning.
Thank you very
I'll
much.
let it go. Hard.
Welcome. If you would please state your name and address for the record, and you'll have 3 minutes.
My name is Timothy Taylor. I live at 4620 Goddard Avenue, Orlando, Florida, but I am the pastor of the Church of the Springs. We also have the pastor of Jesus Pasos here with us today. A couple of things I'd like to speak to real quick. Number one, if you see this diagram up here, this is the diagram from the property appraiser's site from Seminole County. If you go from that little top dot at the top down to this dot there, that is, according to the property appraiser, that is 254 feet. Now, your own alcohol license application states that the measurements are to be taken along the shortest possible line lying entirely within public rights-of-way. Now, I noticed when the gentleman did theirs, they went straight from their building all the way out, I don't know, to the other side of the street, came down, came across. They've added 100 feet right there just by going down it. The shortest distance. I also work I'm a bivocational pastor, and my other job is I work in the surveying and mapping industry. And I took a surveyor's wheel out there this past weekend, and I walked from the point over there, and I came up with 354.1 feet with a surveyor's wheel. I don't know where they're getting these dimensions from. Now, that's not to the door. That was just to the corner of their property. But the point is, we are a whole lot closer than they're saying. The second thing is, as the one who spoke before me, we are having problems with people breaking into our property, unscrewing lights so that they, especially in the wintertime, so that they can sleep up against the building and the police can't see them. They moved outdoor furniture so that they can make them a little fort. They sleep on our patio thing, which has a picnic table. I don't know where they're getting their information from. most everything they've said has been pointed toward their benevolent actions, which are great. I don't mind them doing benevolent actions. We've actually ministered to some of those people in those woods. They've come into our church, we have ministered to them. Now, I haven't seen any of them in quite a while. They may not be back there right now, but we still have regularly people coming into our property and obviously doing damage. So my request to you would be uphold what the board, the zoning committee recommends, because if they have so much money to put into this thing, there are thousands of other opportunities within 2 or 3 miles that they could rent and use rather than being right next to our church.
Thank you, Pastor.
Thank you.
Any more speakers?
Are there any other members of the public here wishing to address this item that neglected to fill out a form? Yellow or green? We have 3 written comments that have all been passed down the dais, so each board member has had an opportunity to read those.
I have.
Anyone else? Going once, going twice? Okay. We will close the public hearing. Commissioners, any questions before we give the applicant an opportunity to rebut? Yes.
A question for staff, based on the pastor's exhibit. So I think I've heard 4 different distances so far. And you know, I want to take everybody for face value, but tell me how we measured it. Do we have a diagram that will show us how specifically our staff measured it?
I don't believe we have the measurement included within our PowerPoint presentation. I believe the applicant did. And what the applicant had described previously is when the property appraiser did the measurement, they came up with over 1,000 feet.
Correct.
So our code requires, if you're, normally for an alcoholic beverage establishment, you are, unless you're part of a restaurant or it's incidental sales, but because this is primarily a liquor store.
Standalone.
It's required to apply for a special exception, but one of the special exception criteria is that you cannot be within 1,000 feet of a church or school. So in this case, they are less than 1,000 feet from the church or school by how we measure it, and there is a code provision which states how it's measured.
Right.
And it is, let's see. It is separation requirements. So any establishment selling alcoholic beverages for consumption on premise shall maintain the following separation from all churches, schools, and property assigned to residential zoning classification or land use designation or like establishments no closer than 1,000 feet measured along the shortest possible line lying entirely within the public rights-of-way, such measurement being between the nearest entrance to the alcoholic beverage establishment and the nearest point on the plot occupied by the church. So in the example that the church described, they did not measure to the door of the proposed establishment.
Have we measured it? Has somebody
Yes.
from our staff?
Yes, we've measured it, and by our measurement, it's a little over 800 linear feet.
Okay.
So it is less than the 1,000 feet, and that's why the applicant did choose to go through the PD process in lieu of the special exception process.
And for the record, our staff measured from the entrance of the proposed applicant's property
To the property line of the church.
to the property line of the church, or the
Correct.
closest property line of the church.
Yes, correct.
Okay.
Commissioner Hurd, you have a question?
Thank you.
I think at the beginning of that, it said for consumption on premises.
Yes.
So if this was just a liquor store,
Just a liquor store requires this special exception.
with the 1,000 feet.
With the 1,000-foot separation from churches and schools, correct.
So is that a different ordinance then from the one that you just read that says consumption on premises?
I don't think so.
I'll verify, but it's for whether it's an alcoholic beverage establishment that is primarily alcohol sales and the on-site consumption portion of it.
Right. I think in briefing, it was about on-site consumption, and I think, so for me, where I think we get into this very weird distinction is that it's one thing to go to a bar only, so no food, bar only, which drums up the good old-fashioned smoky room, for those of us that are old enough to remember that horrifying experience, to a tasting that is out of a teeny little cup to try to entice you to buy a bottle of wine. That's not consumption on premises to me, just to share with my fellow commissioners my line of thinking. It's different.
What if you want to test 10 or 12 bottles to make sure what you like?
Well, typically, they don't do, I mean, go try it. Not that I have. I'm giving a bad impression here, not that I have, but that's not the setup. And so those folks that are there for the manufacturer's reps are actually trained to not facilitate that behavior, just like they are at Costco, in case you've ever tried it there, which I have not either. I already have my brand.
You can get 3 or 4 of those little cordon bleus.
I have a feeling the pastor is going to come minister to me at the end of this meeting, which I welcome, but.
So, and just to clarify, the code says for on-premise or off-premise consumption. So if you are, if the alcohol sales are not an incidental use, like for instance at a grocery store, if you're selling wine in a particular aisle of the grocery store, then you're not required to have special exception approval. But if you're a standalone liquor store, then you're required to have special exception approval per our code. So even if they weren't doing the tastings or the samplings, they would still require special exception approval.
Thank you.
Commissioner Zembauer and then Commissioner
Did I just
Delary.
hear you say that if it was a Publix
No.
selling, doesn't apply for a special?
Does not. It's considered incidental.
Okay. All right.
Or the 7-Eleven that is right across the street from there.
Right.
Commissioner Delary.
Thank you, Madam Chairman. Rebecca, in your recommendation, you said you're recommending the board adopt this because of the buffers that they put in. Can you walk us through that, please?
Sure. They've added additional landscaping that
I understand
they're
that.
providing.
Can you walk us through it?
Sure, I'll have Annie walk you through that
Can
with
someone
the
walk us
details.
through it?
Absolutely.
Hi, Annie Silloway, Senior Planner, Development Services. So the applicant is proposing to add more landscaping along the perimeter of the property in order to comply with the SEPTED standards.
What standards?
SEPTED,
Okay.
as well as additional lighting and light poles on the building and around the property.
What kind of landscaping they putting in?
At this point, we don't know yet.
Okay.
And SEPTED is crime prevention through design?
Environmental design, yes.
Okay.
Yes.
Any other questions?
That was
from
it.
staff? All right. Does the applicant wish to rebut any of the comments that were made? And just so you know, this is not an opportunity for an additional presentation. It's to address
Understood.
the comments.
No, I'm going to just respond to directly what was said by the opposition. Said they don't know where I got the info. I got the info directly from the Seminole County Sheriff's Department. I know they spoke of their experiences, and I'm sure they were telling you what they experienced. I will also tell you again, I not only live 2 minutes from here, but I have a place of business 2 minutes from here. So theoretically, if there is a homeless issue, we have food, we have liquor, we have, beer. You can walk down the public sidewalk and look right through our windows and see bottles of liquor, beer, anything. In the 4.5 years that I've had this restaurant, I have not had one attempted break-in or anything, and they can see the things are right there. But I got the information right from the police report. Just to clarify, the liquor license that we have only allows package sales. It does not allow on-site consumption. So even if I wanted to, I could not. We got a 3PS, and it's right in the report that that is what we are going to have there. So there is no on-site consumption whatsoever, other than the tastings. This is just my opinion, and again, respectfully, the church does sit back San Lando Road, not on 434. It is quite dark back there. I would recommend we had SEPTED come out, and their biggest thing for us is add additional lighting. That was their primary thing, additional lighting and a good security system, which obviously we had every intention of doing both. And we're going to comply with their whole, everything that they talked about in the SEPTED report. But again, I drive by every day to and from my house. It's very dark back where the church is. And so, I can't speak for their experiences, I can only speak for mine. As far as the distances, again, we didn't draw them out. That came from the property appraiser. They have to do it by the way the car goes. Per the county's, the way they measured it, it comes out public right away down the sidewalk, even though not a lot of people are going to use this as a walking area, and it goes to the very tip of their property. I have the papers from the county, signed off from the county. That's where I got my measurements. 1,123, I think, and I think the other was 868. I didn't make them up. I didn't measure them myself. This is Jason Mahoney. He's a civil engineer, so if you'd like to speak to that, Jason.
Sure. Good afternoon. I'm Jason Mahoney, civil engineer of record with NV5, 6200 Lee Vista Boulevard, Orlando, Florida. What Mike was referring to is everyone can measure the distance just a little differently. I can measure it differently on a map than can the applicant, than can the county. So what we do is we rely on the Seminole County property appraiser. So we ask them to give us what's called a property appraiser information report, and it's a document that they prepare, and it's based on your parcel, and then it has little blanks in it that says that parcel is this distance from a school, this distance from a church, this distance from a residence. And what we do is we allow the property appraiser to do that measurement so that they're a third-party unbiased opinion, right? And then you, as the commissioners, can also rely on it because it's coming from someone within the county, someone who applies that same rule of measurement each and every time that they do one of these forms. I will also tell you that we looked at the site plan, the master development plan. It meets all other land development code criteria. It meets FAR, it meets building setbacks, it has adequate parking, it has ample open space. There is no traffic concerns on any of the adjacent roadways. So from a civil engineering perspective, those are the types of things that we looked at on behalf of the applicant.
Any questions for the applicant? Any follow-up? All right. Thank you, gentlemen.
Thank you.
Closed the public hearing and heard from the applicant. Any discussion by the board? Commissioner Constantine, this is your district again.
Yeah, thank you very much. When I first heard about the Planning and Zoning Board's denial of this, I went back, called a couple of them to find out what the concern was, and also watched the tape. There was much confusion about, as we have talked about today, excuse me, the measuring of from the church to the proposed good pour. And so with that, there was a lot of misunderstanding, discussion, and so they got the recommendation that they did. The applicant contacted me and asked if I would meet with them. I did. Looking at the situation, I told them that I felt that they needed to do more buffering, lighting, get with the sheriff's office, find out exactly the reports, also do a survey in the immediate area about homeless. And we all know, both panhandlers and homeless, they're going to go, they're moving around. You cannot deny that there are homeless everywhere in our community, sadly. But, to find out if there was a camp, to find out if there was a problem in that particular area on an ongoing basis. And I think we've all done this before, where we meet with an applicant and we tell them what the concerns are and what the problem is and what they should do to alleviate the concerns. Most don't do it. Or what they do is they come back and try to say, oh, well, there might be a little problem, but, These folks did it all. They did every single thing that I asked them to do. You heard the reports that they got from the sheriff's office. You saw that they did a survey around the area. They did the buffering and the setback. They did the lighting. And quite frankly, in looking at an empty space versus what they're offering to the community, I think that they would be an asset to that area and a benefit to the community. And so therefore, I'm going to recommend the Board of County Commissioners adopt the proposed ordinance enacting the rezone from C1 retail commercial to PD planned development and associated development order and master development plan for the Good Pour alcohol beverage establishment on approximately .78 acres located on West State Road 434, approximately 2,860 feet west of Montgomery Road.
Second.
A motion by Commissioner Constantine, a second by Commissioner Zembauer. Any discussion? I will just say that, as I think I may sound like I'm beating a dead horse, but I'm going to say it again for the record. There's been a lot of focus on the mission of this organization, and in no way, shape, or form does the give back to the community in terms of charity or the mission or the feel good have anything to do with my decision and how I'm going to vote to support this item. Our code and the law does not allow it, and I made that very clear to the applicant when we met in my office. I'm not saying that the mission is bad. I think the mission is good, but that is not what is before us today. So I want to make that very clear before we take a vote.
And Commissioner, I confirm, I concur with you. The fact of the matter is, all the things that I pointed out about what they're intending to do to support the community has nothing to do with what has been brought up from the others. But one other thing I will mention that they said to me is they would be happy to get with the church and work with them also to see if they can help work with them and alleviate some of the concerns that the church had.
Well, my comment was they're bringing the mission field to the church, but Commissioner Zembauer?
Right on. I concur completely with some of the mission statements, and I'm actually, and this is for the county manager, I am somewhat troubled with the presentation from staff, the diatribe of giving back the charity, I think is not of any significance in a quasi-judicial decision, regardless of whether it's this operator or some other operator that doesn't have this mission. The mission should not be part of the discussion or consideration. I respect the charity work that they do. It's good work. I respect others don't do that. Others may do it in a different format, but I do not believe it's our place as staff to have that diatribe going into it. It just doesn't look good, in my opinion. Strictly my opinion.
Any other comments before we call the vote? All right, there's a motion and a second. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion passes unanimously. Item number 20 is the Lake Hayes Road partial right-of-way vacate, and that's going to be presented by Joy Giles. And Joy, I feel like I say your name incorrectly every single time, and I've known you for years.
It's Giles.
It is Giles.
Yes.
Fabulous.
Yes, you are correct. Thank you.
That is important to me, that I say people's names correctly.
Thank you very much.
And this is in Commissioner Delari's district.
Yes, thank you. Are you going to do? Okay, Joy Giles, Principal Planner for Development Services. The applicant, MI Homes of Orlando, has petitioned the county to vacate and abandon a portion of uncut right-of-way known as Lake Hayes Road, lying along the south side of Lot 8 of unrecorded plat of the Lake Woods 5-acre subdivision, lying in Section 25, Township 21 South, Range 31 East of Seminole County. Oops. The subject area vacate is 33 feet wide and 320 feet in length, being approximately 10,580 square feet. The applicant owns the 34-acre property adjacent to the north, known as the Paddock Way PD, which was recently approved by the board. The Paddock Way subdivision is currently under development. If approved, the vacated area will be incorporated into the subdivision. The applicant has provided letters of no objection from all applicable utility companies, and Public Works has no objection with the vacate. The applicant has provided a utility and drainage easement as well as an access easement over the over the portion to be dedicated to Seminole County. The request complies with the requirements for vacating a right-of-way under Section 35.184 of the Seminole County Land Development Code. Therefore, staff recommends the Board of County Commissioners adopt the resolution vacating and abandoning an uncut portion of right-of-way known as Lake Hayes Road as recorded in Official Records Book 201, page 220 of the Public Records of Seminole County. Thank you.
Any questions for Ms. Giles? Is there an applicant? No, we are, yes.
Do not see an applicant.
Is he here? Oh, he is here.
Okay.
Don't be shy, man.
Yeah, would you like to make a presentation?
I don't need to say anything.
Well, you were sitting almost as far away from where you would speak as you can get in this room, so I wasn't sure.
Ben Beckham, Madden Moorhead and Stokes, engineer of record for the Paddock Way project on behalf of My Home, so nothing to add, just available for questions.
Okay, thank you so much for being here.
Thank you.
And if you take a seat closer by this time, that way if we do have any questions, you'll be handy. All right, are there any members of the public who have asked to speak?
We have one, Bill Hyde.
All right, Mr. Hyde.
Good afternoon, Commissioners. My name is Bill Hyde, live at 2379 Audley Street in unincorporated Oviedo. I'm hoping for your support on this vacation this afternoon. This goes all the way back to a recommendation that was made at P&Z by several of the members that this would be a good thing to do to help our neighborhood. Without this, there is a distinct possibility that we could become cut-through traffic, to be honest with you. There's already been an effort by our neighbor to Oviedo to go to Metro Plan to do pre-planning to actually punch that road through. So by doing this, you could support us. I know it seems kind of unusual for me to be working with Mr. Moorhead, but I did, and we appreciate it very much, the efforts that they've done this. This will kind of wrap up something that started quite a while ago. Thank you. I like short meetings, by the way.
Thank you, Mr. Hyde. I'm glad you could make it today. Anyone else who neglected to fill out a form? I didn't see any green forms filled out for comments. No? All right, we'll close the public hearing.
Madam Chairman?
Yes.
Seeing the information that presented us today, I'd like to support the adoption of the resolution and make a motion to adopt the resolution vacating and abandon the uncut portion of the right-of-way known as Lake Hayes Road as record in the official record book 201, page 220 in the public records of Seminole County and presented here today.
There's a motion by Commissioner Delary, second by Commissioner Constantine. Any discussion? All those in favor say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Motion passes unanimously.
Madam Chair, I'd also like to make a comment. I think it's nice to see Bill and his lovely wife Hope here, and it's always a pleasure to hear from you, Bill.
I don't know about Bill, but I'm always glad to see Hope.
I agree with that, but I'm just trying to be politically correct. Thank you for bringing him Hope.
You can leave him at home sometime.
Item number 21. Item number 21 is a Board of Adjustment appeal that we talked about earlier that was likely going to have a request to continue to December 12th. Ms. Moskowitz, if you would
Yes, again, for
walk
the
us through
record.
this.
Got it? I'm Mary Moskowitz, Planning and Development Manager. The appellant on this case has requested a continuance, and staff is recommending to continue to the December 12th BCC meeting.
Motion to move for continuance.
Okay, so I'm going to go to Commissioner
What is
Constantine because he asked to be recognized first, and that's all I
Move the
got.
continuance.
Commissioner Constantine moves to continue.
Second.
Was there a date certain on that motion?
12/12.
December 12th.
Yes.
So the motion is to continue to December 12th. There's a second from Commissioner Herr. Any discussion? Oh, was there anyone here who wanted to speak on this item? Thank you so much. Is there anyone who wants to speak to the continuance of this item? Nope. All right. Close the public hearing. No comments on the continuance. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Motion passes unanimously. So we are continuing item number 21 to December 12th.
For a variance then?
No, it'd be this item if it needs.
Yeah, okay, fine, great.
Item number 22, Angie Gates.
Good afternoon, Angie Gates, Planner Development Services. The applicant is requesting a special exception for a guest house in the R1A Single Family Dwelling District on 0.22 acres located on the south side of Collins Drive at 209 Collins Drive. The request is to convert an existing 392.04 square foot shed to a guest house. The guest house will be for intermittent temporary occupancy by a non-paying guest, will have no cooking facilities, and will not be rented. A community meeting was held on August 3rd, 2022, and there were 2 attendees. On June 26, 2023, the Seminole County Board of Adjustment approved a rear yard setback variance from 30 feet to 6 inches for the shed that is proposed to be a guest house. And on August 2nd, 2023, the Planning and Zoning Board recommended the Board of County Commissioners approve the proposed guest house use. Staff recommends the Board of County Commissioners approve the special exception based on the conditions and development order for a guest house in the R1A Single Family Dwelling District located at 209 Collins Drive. This concludes my presentation. Should you have any questions for staff, I'd be happy to answer.
Thank you very much. Any questions for Ms. Gates? All right. Is the applicant here, and would they like to make a presentation? All right.
I don't have nothing to say.
Okay, that's fine. You can do that. The applicant is present, but she has nothing to say, and I'm sure if we have any questions for you, you'll be happy to answer them. Are there any members of the public here who would wish to speak?
I have no forms.
Is there anyone here who neglected to fill out a form who would like to speak on this item? All right, seeing none, we'll close the public hearing. Any questions from the board for staff or the applicant? Commissioner Zembauer?
Has our staff been out to look at this shed?
Yes, I've been in it myself.
Okay. Wanted to make sure.
There's no cooking facilities.
Understood. I have some concerns, and we're going to ensure that it's going to be in a condition that is livable, correct?
Yes, it is going to be fully, it's going through the permitting process now. It's just halted because of.
Okay. Wanted to make sure that we get that. So if there's no other questions, Madam Chair, I'm prepared to make a motion. I will make a motion, we consider special exception for a guest house in the R1A Single Family Dwelling District on 0.22 acres located on the south side of Collins Drive.
Second.
There's a motion by Commissioner Zembauer, a second by Commissioner Delary. Any further discussion? All those in favor say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Motion passes unanimously. Thank you. Item number 23 is another rezone for GLE scrap metal, and the project manager is Doug Robinson. This is in District 4. I get one today.
Good afternoon, Madam Chair and Commissioners. Doug Robinson with Planning and Development.
They have it. Somebody got it. They're doing it for you.
Sure. Great. So this is a request to rezone from, it actually has 3 zoning categories on it. One is the one that they want to make the whole site. It is A1 agriculture, C2 retail commercial, and M1 industrial. And they'd like to rezone to M1 industrial for the site, which is approximately 0.098 acres. That would support the existing operations of the scrap metal recycling facility that is located to the north of the subject site, on the 2 parcels actually to the north. And so as you can see on the aerial, the site is located on the east side of Lyman Road. That's Ronald Reagan to the west. It's about 330 feet away from Ronald Reagan Boulevard. So as I mentioned, the site is, could you go back to the aerial, please? Thank you. This site is currently used to store some scrap metal containers on it, but the applicant would like to integrate that site into properties to the north to create more space on the northern property and to improve the vehicular circulation, and also separate the public access from the truck traffic access on the site. They're also proposing to create a cross-access between the properties and construct a stormwater pond. Now, all that wouldn't occur on the site, but I think it's a matter of using all the properties combined to put the stormwater facility, improve the circulation, and separate the truck traffic from the auto traffic. They also would potentially be using the property, continuing to store overflow containers and vehicles parked on that property. The site currently has an industrial future land use designation that does allow for locations of heavy commercial industrial land uses oriented towards wholesale distribution, storage, manufacturing, and other industrial uses. The maximum intensity permitted on the industrial future land use is 0.65 floor area ratio. To our knowledge, there are no wetlands or floodplains on the site. However, if there is any discovered during the site plan process, they would be required to show those delineations. The property does access Lyman Road. There are no improvements in the 5-year capital improvement program. They also border Anchor Road to the east of the property, but the applicant has indicated that they do not intend to use Anchor Road to access the site. If they did decide to do that, they would actually have to improve Anchor Road to county standard. As far as stormwater retention goes, they may, depending on drainage issues in the area, they may have to hold up to total retention of the 100-year 24-hour storm event on site. Utilities are provided by the city of Castleberry, which is directly south of the site and east and west. There are no structures planned to be on this particular parcel. However, if they do install any buildings on this site, they would be expected to connect utilities to the city of Castleberry. We have also indicated that that may be the mechanism for the annexation of the property into the city of Castleberry. And we've instructed them to coordinate with them even before this rezone process began, but they've indicated they didn't intend to have any utilities on site. Regarding buffers and landscaping, the site will be required to meet all of our land development code requirements. That would be determined at the time of final site plan, and a minimum of 25% of open space is required, which could include, in this case, the buffer areas. Staff does find the proposed M1 zoning classification compatible with the surrounding development in the area and is consistent with both the allowable use and intensity provisions of the industrial future land use designation. The applicant did hold a community meeting on Thursday, July 13th at 7 p.m. I believe there were 2 attendees in addition to the applicant. Their questions were mainly curious about what was being proposed to the site. The Planning and Zoning Commission did vote unanimously on August 2nd to approve the rezone request, and I believe the minutes and the summary of that are in your packet as well. So with that, bring me to the recommendation. Staff recommends that the Board of County Commissioners adopt the ordinance enacting a rezone from A1 agriculture, C2 retail commercial, and M1 industrial to M1 industrial to support operations of an existing scrap metal recycling facility on approximately 0.9 acres located on the east side of Lyman Road, approximately 330 feet south of Ronald Reagan Boulevard. And that concludes my presentation, Madam Chair. Thank you. I'm here for any questions you may have.
Any questions for Mr. Robinson? Commissioner Zembauer?
I have one, and my apologies. If we can go to the aerial, if you can bring it up towards the bottom. I guess you don't have it, or you can't get it up that far. The one in our packet says winter of 2023.
Say winter?
Yeah, that would be something our GIS department stamps on the maps that they.
But it's obviously not a winter of 2023 aerial.
Why?
Just
It'd be January, February.
January and February winter.
Okay. Very well. That's all I have.
I thought maybe we were supposed to be losing leaves in the winter in Florida, and I was like, no, that ain't any, there's no snow.
Is Florida anymore?
That's a great question, though. That's so funny.
And I should mention the applicant is here.
Okay, all right. The applicant is here. Does he wish to make a presentation? All right.
Good afternoon. My name is Ben Ellis with HCR, 315 East Robinson Street, Orlando, Florida, 32801. Also have Jeff Schwartz here from GLE. He can answer any operational questions. We concur with staff. We appreciate their support and their assistance on this process. Again, we're just trying to make consistent what's already happening to the two pieces to the north and allow for greater flexibility with the site plan and bring it so it's consistent. There's no intention to tie into Anchor Road. We want to keep that buffer on that side, but we're available for questions.
Fantastic, thank you. Any questions for the applicant? No? All right, if you stay close by, just in case. Sure. Ms. Coons, any members of the public that wish to speak?
No, I have no forms.
Okay, anyone here who neglected to fill out a form who would like to speak? No? All right, we'll close the public hearing. Is there a motion?
Madam Chair, I'm happy to make a motion on your behalf.
All right.
This is your district.
Thank you.
I move a motion to consider a rezone from A1 agricultural to C2 retail commercial and M1 industrial to M1 industrial to support operations of an existing scrap metal recycling facility on approximately 0.98 acres located on the east side of Lyman Road, approximately 330 feet south of South Ronald Reagan Boulevard.
Second.
There's a motion by Commissioner Zembauer, second by Commissioner Delary. Any discussion? For the record, I noted that Commissioner Constantine was equally eager to make the motion, so that goes noticed. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Motion passes unanimously. Thank you very much. There is a, oh, that's for later, sorry. But wait, 24 should be next. 24 is at 5:30.
24 is a delay.
24 is at 5:30. County Attorney's report and County Manager's report.
I have nothing further to report.
All right.
Thank you, Madam Chairman. Just a few items. One, as we were talking this morning about benefits enrollment, just want to remind everyone that our open enrollment is Monday, October 9th through Sunday, November the 5th. We are having a couple enrollment meetings. One are right here in the chambers on Tuesday, October the 3rd, and then we also have one at the Ag Center on Wednesday, October 18th, and we'll make sure that gets out to all of our employees. Wanted to give you just an update on the Yarborough property and the process of the Florida Forever application that's going through. Just to update you, you all know this, but last week was the August the 29th. It was the public hearing for our application. Of course, that got canceled due to the hurricane. They are looking to reschedule that. We will let you know when that date has been scheduled, but just to keep on the dates that are still scheduled or certain. October the 11th up in Tallahassee, that's when the Florida Forever would like a presentation from us. We don't know what type yet. They haven't gotten with us, but we're willing and ready and be able to make that presentation to them. December 7th, that is where all eyes are on. That's when they will make the final vote or decision if the property will be put on the Florida Forever list. And then it will, as you know, go through the funding piece and go to the cabinet and how that piece, how that goes. So everything's still on track for that. In the meantime, we did get the appraisers on board. Actually just finished the purchase order for those. So Ms. Kuntz is leading that effort, and we'll get we've got 2 appraisers on board, have them ready for the property. And I'm also working with the property owners' representatives on this as well. And in case something does not happen with at the Florida Forever level, that it gets on the list, that we'll be able to bring back with you an alternative. So just to let the board know that that is still going on. Also just want to recognize Dominique Drager, our new Agenda Development Coordinator. I know you all have met her, so Melanie will not be sitting in that seat soon. We all have to throw stuff at her to start the clock, but Dominique will be on it. And then just want to give Chief Kinley, if he could come up, in remembrance and never forgetting September 11th, which was the anniversary was yesterday. Some of our firefighters were actually recognized at a breakfast recently, and I just want him to share that experience with the board.
Good afternoon, Chairman, Commissioners, Matt Kinley, Fire Chief. Mr. Gray asked me to come up and obviously talk about the Central Florida Hotel and Lodging Association Patriot Day Breakfast. Just for the, I know you all know what that is, just for the benefit of any the public that may be watching, that's an annual breakfast remembrance put on to recognize first responders and the heroic acts that they do and lives that they save. Once again, we had crews that were recognized for a life-saving award. So just to start off, this is a good story. Our crews responded back in July of this year to a drowning call of a 2-year-old. What I love about this call is it's just so representative of this community and how all those how the chain of survival just interconnects to have a successful outcome. So just right out of the gate, the family got her out of the water. Called 911. Our dispatchers talked them through CPR, which they did not know how to do. They've seen it on TV, but our dispatchers talked them through that. Law enforcement, SO, arrived on scene, took over CPR for them. Then our crews arrived very quickly after that, very, very quickly. And our EMTs and paramedics were able to do the amazing things that they do. We quickly transported to the hospital and had 2-year-old Shinelli breathing with pink skin before we got to the hospital. And then the hospital continued that care for the next week, and she walked out of the hospital. We were lucky enough in August to have her come into the public safety building and celebrate her 3rd birthday. Just once again, this is just a shining example of everything works within Seminole County. And just for the record, wanted to acknowledge our crews that were involved: Dispatcher Angela Bass, Deputy Sheriff Douglas McTighe, Lieutenant Paul Hammerl, Firefighter Paramedic Stephen Schwartz, Lieutenant Ryan Hart, Firefighter Rick Montejano, and Firefighter Jackson DeCure. Again, just something that really we do every day, but this is just a perfect example of how that chain attaches together here in Seminole County. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Shane.
Thank you. Great stuff.
And just the last thing, we'll see you at 5:30 for the first budget public hearing.
Public hearing.
What meeting?
First budget public hearing.
Didn't get
That was late on that. Punchy.
Item
There aren't
24.
enough cookies to keep me interested anymore. I just thought I'd mess with you a little.
That's awesome.
His face was priceless.
District Commissioner reports, starting with District 3.
Thank you very much, Commissioner. First, I did want to recognize our county manager who spoke to the Leadership Seminole Coffee conversation on August 25th with the announcement that he was now a world record holder or the winner of the champion from equestrian. I wonder how much time he really has, since, he's out there riding his horses everywhere, but congratulations on that, and it was well received. On the 26th, I've got to tell you, our fire department does so many wonderful things. On the 26th, they went by and they did a drive-by for a 100-year-old who is also a retired military. Bob Lowe celebrated his 100th anniversary on August 26th, and he is a retired Master Chief Petty Officer in the United States Navy. From 1942 to 1972, he served. And during World War II, he participated in the invasions of Sicily, Anzio, Salerno, and Normandy. And the fire department went out there and did a drive-by, and he had something like 40, 50 neighbors that came out to celebrate that. And it's just a wonderful, wonderful event. On the 29th through 30th, and I just want to show one thing, many of you know that I was serving on the Opioid Solutions Leadership Network for NACO. This was our last meeting. Our report will be coming shortly. I did want you to know that the latest report in Orange and Seminole County is that Opioid-related deaths are down by 11% this year, which is wonderful. This was in Milwaukee, and you can't really tell, but the bridge was lit up. It was the Opioid Awareness Day, and the bridge was lit up purple in Milwaukee for that particular event. Also, I wanted to congratulate, you can take that down. I want to congratulate Mr. John Williams, who won the 2023 Heart of the Arts Award by our own Seminole County Arts Council for his continued participation and philanthropy that he gives to the arts here in Seminole County. On September 9th, Commissioner Delory and I attended the Tunnel to Towers 5K run in Altamont Springs in Cranes Roost, and there were 1,100 runners that day, and they raised a great deal of money, and of course that was obviously to honor those that were lost their lives during the 9/11. And also, I did want to make sure that each and every one of you were aware, but that for the first time, the Florida Association of Counties will be having their conference here tomorrow, Thursday, and Friday. Our chairman will welcome them tomorrow morning at the Lake Mary Marriott at 8:30 approximately.
I was told 8:20.
Well, you'll be there at 8 o'clock. And then we will be going on a innovation program around the county. They'll be seeing things like our Boomba, and also the Wekiva Parkway, and then some of the innovations that Altamont Springs is doing. The exciting news is that this conference, it's called the Innovation and Policy Conference. Last year, we did it in Miami, and there was about 100 participants. This year in Seminole County, we have 150 participants. They've really just blew their goal out of the water, and we'd really love to have you come by tomorrow morning at Wekiva. I will tell you, Bruce Squirrel is very happy because his hotel is completely booked, and I think that they had to go, some of them, over to the Westin, so that's wonderful. The last thing I have, two things. One is that on the 27th, talking about Florida Forever, the Florida Wildlife Corridor Conference is here in Orlando, down near the Disney area, and I will be one of the speakers at that particular thing, hoping to get a few good words in about some of our requests. And this I'm going to, if all are okay with this, many of you are familiar with the St. Stephen's Lutheran Church on 434. They, October 15th, are going to celebrate their 50th anniversary. I thought it would be appropriate if we did a resolution for them, if that would be okay with the rest of you.
Sure.
Thank you. So we'll bring that up as soon as we can at the next meeting.
We did it for the Episcopalians. We got to do it for the Lutherans.
And that is all I have. Thank you.
All right, thanks. Next district is District 5.
Yes, I'd actually...
I caught you off guard, I'm sorry.
No, I just thought of something. I'd like to move to reappoint Doug McClendon to the City of Sanford Community Redevelopment Agency. He was appointed originally and took over Brian Volk's term that ends September 30th, so...
Second.
There's a motion by Commissioner Herr, a second by Commissioner Delory. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion passes unanimously.
Thank you. Yesterday, I did attend at Worley Park an invitation that was extended. Martha R. reached out. She had Secretary Marion McFadden from HUD out of Washington, D.C. here. She was actually here on some other business, but makes it her priority to visit properties while she is in town. We sat and had about a 40-minute discussion on some of the issues that we face with HUD funding and the confusion related to HUD funding. The secretary from HUD in Jacksonville was in the building, and I did approach him about the dilemma of CDBG funding. I hope I just said that right. And the conflict between Rescue Outreach Mission being in the city of Sanford and in the county, and he indicated that he would be willing to rehold another discussion with me about that dilemma. So I did reopen that can of worms, hopefully for a good outcome. Commissioner Constantine reminded me, because I don't ever think of these things, so I'm just not good at this piece of this yet, but the Lake Mary Rotary is celebrating 50 years, and maybe we need to do a resolution to celebrate that.
I think it's wonderful.
There we go, wonderful idea. And then the last thing I'd like to share with you is two things, and this dovetails into some of the land development discussion that we were having this morning. Rebecca's back there packing up and just...
Run.
It's an easy one, but you know there was a bear encounter in one of the neighborhoods in my district, and there was a young man who is a 10th grade student at Lake Mary High School, and I just want to recognize him for his heroic behavior that night. He was actually in the area and came upon the gentleman that had fallen, and there was an older gentleman walking a very small dog, and he actually assisted the man and the dog. Both were very badly injured, and called 911, was calm, cool, and collected, and was the voice of reason that sought help for both of those folks that were in the bear's harm's way. Coincidentally, we just got a request via email, not that I was reading email during any of your reports, but it is a really legitimate request, and that is that in the subdivisions in the Bear area, we should require signage. People move in and out of there. We're doing the postcards. We put it in the ordinance that we should educate, but while we're developing those areas, let's put signs in the neighborhoods that very clearly and succinctly say what it is you should do and what it is you shouldn't do. We just have to get out of the way of the bear. I had an incident in the past week. I can see my husband pull up in the driveway. We had been all watching through the window where the bear was sitting, which was literally about 8 feet away from where he gets out of the car. Now, he's got Elvis Presley blasting, and he's thinking about 100 other things. So I guarantee you he would have gotten out and been staring at this bear. And so we're calling him. We have the window open. We're hollering out the window, "Don't get out, don't get out." So, of course, he gets out, and he's like, "What?" The bear left. But you're just not expecting to see it. And so reminders within our communities is a really important thing, particularly with trash, pets, birdseed, all the crazy stuff that we do as humans to attract these animals into our patio refrigerators that have sweet things in it like White Claw. So I request that, I mean, this is what happens in our neighborhoods. I do request that we consider requiring signage in these neighborhoods.
Before you move on, Commissioner Zembauer has something he'd like to add to your comment.
So I would just ask Rebecca, this goes all the way back to my days on P&Z back 2015, 16, whenever that was. We put in the development order of many of these places that required them to have signage, required them to adopt the FWC Bear Aware program, and educate and inform all new residents, and at least once a year at the annual meetings, have the discussion with all their homeowners. I don't know where that stands as far as any enforcement or follow-up, but that goes back to Commissioner Hurst's point is we anticipated this and that's why many times it was put in the development
We
order.
anticipated this, yes.
That's correct, yes. So if the zoning of the property was PD, plan development, and they had a development order, we included those requirements in the development order. I'm not 100% on the signage requirement, whether that was included, but there were some additional requirements for the plan developments. If you're within a straight zoning district within the urban bear management area, then we didn't add additional conditions. They still have to comply with our code, which mirrors the FWC requirements. So in this particular, for this particular request, I see, I guess, two options. Does Public Works want to put signage in existing neighborhoods, or is it something that has to be coordinated with the HOAs? But then any new development, we could require it, but we would have to amend the code to add that requirement to the urban bear management section of the code.
So from my perspective, the answer to all of those questions is yes. If we have to amend it, then let's amend it to get it done. If we have to coordinate with the HOAs and we provide the signs and they allow installation, we should do it. I will tell you that I live in one of those neighborhoods, and my first encounter with a bear was the first education I got about a bear. And that's when he was sitting in the driveway eating lasagna. And he liked it, just for the record. But who wouldn't, right? But it is not happening. And I live in the HOA neighborhood. I am in Heathrow. That is a very progressed HOA that's engaged, that's doing all the stuff they're supposed to be doing. But Bear Aware is not, it's just not top of mind.
So with this current round of LDC, we've already been to the Planning and Zoning Commission. We're bringing those before you on September 26th. So we can, if the board directs staff to bring those separately, we can bring a separate ordinance amending the land development code for that in particular.
I'm at a yes again.
And then we'll work on a whole communication plan out to the bear areas as well.
Yep, that's a yes too.
I'm sorry, Commissioner Constantine, go ahead.
I was just going to say yes, yes, and yes. Back when we were doing the ordinance, this was something that we discussed, and I can recall that we just, at that time, didn't have the votes for it, but I was supportive of it then. I'm supportive of it now. I think it's great.
So I think there's an opportunity to do the things that are all good things simultaneously. I think we can reach out to the HOAs and ask for them to voluntarily participate. I can't imagine that any of them would not want that. There may be some architectural design issues with the signage. I know some of the communities don't, right? Like there's a sign thing, like. So, but I think it would be worth having those conversations and letting them know that we're heading down this path. And in the meantime, would you be interested in blah, 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 whatever it be. So that's great. Any other input on that before Commissioner Herr gets back to her district report?
I'm done with my district report, but I would just add, since that's an extra level of work that got attached, if my office can help in any way, we'll be glad to do that. You want us to make phone calls, you want us to do emails, we'll be happy to do that. And thank you, Brenda, in advance for your help.
All right, great. District 1.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I've been giving you all updates regarding the Lockwood Road sewer line project replacement, and it's been going on for quite some time, almost a year now, and we're getting very close to completion. I've been told that it's going to be close to the beginning part of October of this year. The line has been replaced and backfilling it, and they're doing restoration of all the area that they've had to rip apart. The thing that's so intriguing about this project is that it's been not just multi-groups that have been involved. You have environmental, Kim Ornberg, you have John Dredge, Public Works, you have Chief Matt Kinley, you have law enforcement, both City of Oviedo and the county, you have the city residents, you have county residents, you have UCF, you have 6 or 8 different HOAs, you have 2 schools, both the elementary school and the high school, you have several churches, the list goes on and on and on. And I want to thank all the county different staff. To say one group was leading the charge doesn't do it justice. They should all be commended because of how complex this project was over a number of months, and I want to thank you all for being such good stewards, not just of the county money and utility, but also being good stewards of letting people know what's happening, being fully transparent, and actually helping. In fact, there's been reports of one construction guy, and he's not a small person, actually walking elementary kids across the street because they were having problems crossing. So it goes on, and this is what local government's all about, and you should all be commended for doing it. The live website that they had, that gave people real information, people answering the phones. I mean, I can sit here for a long time talking about all the things that went right. We can also talk about the things that went wrong, but staff corrected it very quickly. And no project like this would ever go without any issues, but when issues did arise and was noted, staff made the pivot and made the changes immediately, and I want to thank them all. So thank you all for your hard work. I also want to thank Commissioner Constantine. I was at the Tunnel to Tower event this past weekend. I thought your speech was very moving at the end. Most people sometimes don't realize what the Tunnel to Tower actually means is that there was actually firefighters that actually ran through the battery tunnel with full bunker gear once they got out of the battery tunnel. And by the way, the battery tunnel is probably one of the longest tunnels that we have in the United States. People don't realize that. After they got out of the tunnel, they ran from the entrance of the tunnel to the Twin Towers and then ran up the Twin Towers in full bunker gear, carrying equipment. The 5K race is supposed to, it does honor those individuals, but to see people running in full bunker gear, it is truly amazing to see both young people and elderly people, not elderly, but older firefighters run in bunker gear. I couldn't do it, and they should all be commended for doing that every year. Also with Tunnel to Tower, it's an organization that helps first responders, both fire and law enforcement, and also military people, for when they lose someone to actually get them back on their feet. It is truly a family that goes beyond just that one day, and it helps people reunite their families and get them back financially. The people that spoke there that day, it was very moving, where there's been a couple of sheriff deputies and law enforcement individuals that died in the line of duty, that Tunnel to Tower actually helped those families and paid off their mortgages to get them back on their feet. So it should all be commended. So Commissioner Constantine, well done.
Thank you, sir.
And then the other thing I'd like to talk about is that on April 26, 1994, the Board of County Commissioners actually established the Seminole County Arts Council. This year would be next year, which would be 2024, will be celebrating their 30th anniversary. I'd like to ask staff to reach out to them to see how we can commemorate that 30-year anniversary. Arts in the council is arts in this county is very important, and don't know how we could do that effectively, but I think the schools should be involved. I think it's something that we should celebrate, and if it's no objections, I'd like to ask the county staff if they can meet with the SCAC group to see how they can partner with them to not only get the word out, do a resolution of support, and to see about celebrating the arts in this county for the last 30 years.
That's a great idea. Anyone object?
Nope.
Nope. Sounds great.
With that, Madam Chairman, is the end of my report. Thank you.
All right, thank you so much. District 2.
Thank you very much, Madam Chair. I want to remind everybody there is a public meeting on the Slavia Road extension from Malone to Alfay on September 19th at 6 p.m. Be at the Oviedo Mall Community Room at 1700 Oviedo Mall Boulevard. That is in Commissioner Delari's and my district. So those that want information on that roadway, that's the time and place to be. Also, September 21st in my district at 6 p.m. in Wickham Road, road drainage and improvement meeting will be at Danville, which is way out. If any of my fellow commissioners want to come out to to the real part of the country.
Real
Come on
country.
out. Good place. I know some of you have been to Danville. That area has finally recovered for the most part since Ian and since the flooding, and Dan has been very, very good to the community in opening up his place for those folks that were flooded out on Lake Harney, and we thank Dan Shaw for making that place available. Also, on the project opioid, good work for our Sheriff, Dennis Lima, who gave a press conference this morning that, for the first time in many, many years, the opioid crisis of deaths due to overdose have reduced 11 to 11.5% in the two-county area of Orange and Seminole. And I think that's because of the great work that the Sheriff's Office is doing, as well as this commission helped fund that initiative. So that's work well done. Also, want to give ourselves a good pat on the back that on September 1st, 2023, Stacker Publications named Seminole County as the best county in the state of Florida to raise a family.
Again.
Fantastic.
That's not the first time either, I don't think.
No, it's not. So it speaks, volumes to our school system, our electeds, and our community as a whole working together for the best outcome of everyone. If there is no opposition, I would like to ask staff to look at the floodplain ordinance. Due to Hurricane Ian and some things that have cropped up and thrown bright lights on something I don't think we realized could have happened, based on a cost analysis on how we evaluate the 50 percentile requiring a complete raising of the building versus rebuilding of the building. And we're using a property appraiser's number, which is far below market value, and we're using a state guideline which is not even closely remotely to the reality of the square footage actually happening in our geographic area.
And I feel like I remember you bringing this up prior.
Yes.
And I thought we'd said, look into it, maybe, didn't we say?
We did.
Did
Thought
we?
so.
Okay, and I don't remember how long ago it was, so,
About a year ago.
no. Was it that
No,
long ago?
wasn't that long. No, it was probably 6
Storm
months.
wasn't a year ago.
Before me.
Yeah, probably 6 months.
But I have been in communication with.
Good one, good one.
And I've been here 6 months.
Would you like Ms. Hammock to address? She's walked her way down to the podium.
Yes.
For the record, Rebecca Hammock,
right.
Development Services Director. And just to clarify with regards to the floodplain ordinance, it gives you three options.
Understood.
In providing the valuation of the building and
Right.
whether you have to comply with the new floodplain regulations. So one of those is the property appraiser's valuation, and then you
Right.
can actually go to the property appraisers and have them adjust it for
Right.
market value. And then the third option is to get an independent appraisal.
Right.
So those options are in the code currently, and in this particular case with the one property owner we've been working with, they chose to get their independent appraisal.
So to the benefit of my fellow commissioners, I test drove this ordinance in real life. And it has cost a property owner $1,400 to go get their own appraisal. And that was at a huge discount because they knew somebody who knew somebody that could actually do a reasonable one. The adjustment from the property appraiser's office, it's not even remotely close to real world cost per square foot in this case. And I think my goal is, and our goal should be, is if we're going to, and I think this was again an unintended consequence of what we didn't know because we had never really dealt with it when we updated it in 2021, I think it was, is that we hadn't had a Hurricane Ian to the point of the flooding we had and how impactful that could be and what it would actually cost people to rebuild. And using a square footage that's legitimately market value. You can't get a market value from Mr. Johnson's office. You can get an adjusted value based on his appraisal. You can't, it's not even remotely close. And I think our goal should be to help these people in those times of need instead of punishing them and say, here's your options, or go spend some money and get your own. So that was my quandary and concern. As well as I think there's some things that need to be cleaned up from staff interpretation. I think it needs to be, there should be very little interpretation. We should actually give the intent of what it's there for, and the interpretation should be close to nothing unless it's a menial type gray area of decision-making, which I think it will help us treat everybody equal under the law.
So what I would appreciate is if we could get the ordinance and a briefing time set up with staff to kind of sit down and dig in. I admittedly have not reacquainted myself with that ordinance, and I have been hearing about this, but I have not dug in.
Right.
So I'd love an opportunity to have a briefing on it. Any other, Commissioner Herr?
So if we're considering that we're still in hurricane season, if we're going to advance this in any timely fashion, which I think is what I'm hearing you want to have happen, the briefing should also include what the potential solution is to the dilemma. And if I'm hearing you correctly, it's not the square footage that we're debating, it's the value per square foot
Right,
to
so-
measure to the 50%
So to give you an
mark.
example.
I think I get it.
I actually called contractors in the Orlando MSA and said, what is the square footage to build this residential or this commercial? And got those numbers compared to what staff had given us based on the Florida calculation and based on David Johnson, then it's not even close.
It's what is the price per square foot to build?
To
Not the-
replace or-
To replace, to repair, to
remodel,
build. It's
whatever
not
it
the
is.
square footage of what is it that I'm reconstructing.
No.
Do I want 1,200 square feet?
Well, there is a part of the equation because the ordinance says if you exceed 50% of the value, which obviously is based on square footage, then you must raise the building.
But it's
There's
the
a whole different
per square foot dollar amount
Correct.
that's under debate. So with that as the basis, when we do the briefing, if we could have some options for what is the way to get in front of this before the next storm. That may not be possible, but if it is possible, can we try to do that now? And I do agree that the idea that we would know it's not at market value, if that is the case, and continue to push people to have to endure yet one more threshold, because quite honestly, you can't get people to work after a storm in a location. So now you're subjecting residents to out-of-towners that are coming in and, knocking you down when you're already down. So if we're going to do a briefing, I actually want the problem and the solution in the same briefing so that we can actually maybe move the item forward.
And I don't know if it's the Home Builders Association or some other entity that annually we should be looking at or put in the ordinance that would be the bar for our region to look at, that's supportable and reliable.
Understood. Okay.
So outside of that, I think that's it.
All right. For District 4, I have an appointment to make of Cynthia Kingston to the Committee on Aging as the community representative for the term ending December 31st, 2024, and would start a full second term to end December 31st, 2027. So we're fulfilling the remainder of a term and then serving another term.
Second.
Any discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion passes unanimously. Thank you. Like all of you, I probably had or will have an opportunity to meet the clerk's new Inspector General, Randy Nunley. Came from the Greater Orlando Aviation Authority. This delightful man. He seems like he's really excited to be here in Seminole County and working with the clerk. We talked about the importance of the independence of that office and that job, and so it was great to get to meet him and hear some of the opportunities that we may have to work together. I did a little video for our Transportation 2045 plan as we started talking about doing the public outreach and communication and getting feedback. So you may or may not see that. I haven't seen it. So hopefully if it's terrible, staff's decided not to circulate it. I also had an opportunity to meet with Representative Placencia, talking about our legislative priorities. was my first opportunity to meet her throughout the entire campaign season. We never wound up at the same place at the same time, and that was my first opportunity to actually meet her in person. And she was very passionate and excited about getting to know Seminole County better and recognizing, even though there's only a very small portion of our county that she represents, she's very excited to be a part of our delegation. And I think Tricia has already worked with her and her team. She's kind of looking to us as she wants to learn about some things, some different topics, and she sees us as subject matter experts on a couple of different areas. Kudos to our team for that. And so I know that we're working on setting up those types of meetings for her where she can have briefings with her staff. Of course, as you all know, we had our little brush with Idalia, and I'm glad that it was a little bit of a trial run, if you will. Those kinds of storms are always so hard because you want everybody to be prepared because you don't know how that last little turn may go, but then you always run the risk of being the boy who cried wolf. And so I'm thrilled that we didn't have serious effects here, but of course, as all of you, were keeping the Big Bend area in our prayers. We were talking earlier about Perry. Drove down I-10 this weekend, and just, it looked like a war zone.
It was pretty bad. I was there 2 hours after it hit.
Wow.
On I-10, and had to turn around and drive 40 miles back to I-75, while 18-wheelers were backing up in reverse for 8 miles to get to an exit to turn around and go back the other way.
Oh.
It was pretty interesting.
Yeah, that's a good word.
And Perry is
yeah,
pretty bad.
Yep. I also had the opportunity to meet with Secretary Tyler, who's our District 5 FDOT Secretary. Really has some great conversation around Brightline and the Sunshine Corridor and Sunrail, and Darren is going to be setting up a time for us to have a briefing for our team to meet with some of his team and really kind of figure out what some of the timelines are. I'm still learning some of these items, so it was great to get a briefing with him directly, and I think we'll have, I don't know if that's on the calendar yet or not.
No,
but
we'll reach out to him.
Okay. We also had Ms. Johnson, Mr. Swenson, Ms. Ornberg, Mr. Patton, and Mr. Johnson from the Health Department. And Gabby Milch from the Seminole Soil and Water Conservation District. We had a powwow talking about how we can better utilize and communicate to our private well folks, and it was really largely around discussion about how to just encourage and educate private well owners to be responsible for the quality of their water, for everything in the water. And we had some good things that came out of that discussion, and I know that there will be follow-up on that as well. And I'm looking at Tricia just because she's sitting down there, but it was a really good conversation, and the Seminole Soil and Water Group is just very well equipped and very much willing to participate in anything that we have. They have a volunteer base ready to roll, and we should definitely avail ourselves of that, and so we're going to do that. I had an opportunity to speak with the Leadership Seminole Government Session Class 33. It was a really fun group in this room, and thank you to Jeremiah, who drove a little bit for me on the website. I was pulling up some stuff, some maps and what have you for some of the things I talked about, and it was really, I wound up staying the whole day. I have never done Leadership Seminole as a class participant, so my schedule was open, and I thought, well, I'm just going to sit here and see what is this animal. And I will tell you, our staff members did such a phenomenal job of representing this county and going through all of the different activities for the day. There was a mock county commission meeting where they did the urban bear management ordinance, so with different commissioners played different roles. They sat in your seat, so if your chair was moved, Commissioner Delari, I have a picture of the person who moved my chair. It really was a fantastic day. And each of the constitutionals the clerk was not able to attend, he was out of town, but each of the constitutionals came, all of the 7 city mayors were here, a wonderful discussion between Commissioner Aramandia from Castleberry and the city manager from Sanford, talking about that relationship. And one of the things that I think the sheriff really identified that is worth repeating is how important the success of Seminole County is and the feeling of community is in this county based on the relationships and the trust that we have. And it was evident throughout the day as each group came in and spoke. There was an ease and a familiarity, even if there were some kind of fun little jabs among the mayors. And it's clear that we all get along very well and we all respect one another, even though we may disagree on some different items. And I think the class came away feeling that too, and so I felt really good about that. And Darren, of course, is in the class, so he was front
I was a
center.
participant. I got to see who played me.
And what'd you think?
He did a great job. He said, "I'll look into it."
That's what your tagline is.
Oh, my.
Yes, Commissioner, I'll look into it.
It was fantastic. I'm going to do that one last. Commissioner Constantine talked about the upcoming FACT conference. I really do hope if any of you have an opportunity to pop in or out throughout the day, there will be tours. I think it would be kind of fun for you to see Seminole County through the eyes of these 149 other county commissioners from around the state. The fact that we're hosting this and we'll have so many elected officials here from around the state from Miami-Dade to Hardy to Washington. I mean, every demographic you can possibly imagine. I think it will be fun to see them in our county and hear some of the feedback and how people see our county through their eyes. So we'll be sure and get the itinerary to you if there's an opportunity for you to.
Just tell them we're the best county to raise a family.
Yep.
I have many times.
Commissioner Delary has graciously agreed to attend on our behalf the MPO meeting on Wednesday because each of us either has a commitment with the FAC convention or has some other commitment. And so thank you, Commissioner Delary, so much for your willingness. It was sent.
Okay.
I don't know if
I haven't seen it.
I think it was sent to Mr. Hutman,
Okay.
but we can make sure you get a copy. So thank you again for that. Appreciate it. The conversation that we had surrounding the rezone that was in Commissioner Delary's district at our last meeting, there was a lot of discussion about parents parking and some of the, and I don't remember the name of the neighborhood, and I feel terrible.
Mustang Way.
The Mustang Way
with the
rezone, but the
school?
neighborhood that was there, and they were really concerned about the parking. So I had a meeting with Superintendent Beeman on another topic, and so I went ahead and brought that up, and she has assured me that they are going to be working on that item, and so I expect that I'll get an update on that, and I will let you all know what I hear from her. But I wanted to follow up and let you all know that I did do that. Ms. Latour and I met with some community members yesterday. As I told you, there were some concerns about the canvassing board composition. There was a resolution that was drafted by some members of the community. We talked about that briefly at one of our board meetings. I told you that I was willing to meet with them and we would talk about their concerns, and we did that yesterday. There are a variety of things that came. It was about an hour and a half long meeting. A lot of good ideas were exchanged, have a much better idea of what their concerns are. At the end of the day, the county attorney confirmed for us that we've done everything within the statutes. Everything we have done is legal. So we may have some follow-up yet to come from that. But I just wanted you to know that we did do that, and that we've confirmed that everything that we have done has been completely within the bounds of the law. Anything you want to add to that? Okay. The other thing that I've asked the county attorney to look at, and I just want to let you know that I've asked it because I don't ever want to feel like I'm giving direction without the consent of the board. one of the things that came up in the conversation with the new Inspector General is the fraud, waste, and abuse hotline. There's a fraud, waste, and abuse opportunity through the clerk's office or through the Inspector General, and then we also have for our employees a hotline type number if employees have concerns that are Seminole County government employees. And the conversation just sort of evolved into, well, we know what Seminole County employees, we know where citizens can submit concerns, but if you're an employee of a constitutional officer and you have a concern, what is that recourse? Do you use the clerks? Do you use ours? Do you go to the governor? Do you, like, where do you go? And as you all know, we've had those conversations over the last many years, but it's never really been that specific of a conversation that I've had with a constitutional officer, with the Inspector General on that topic. So I asked if the county attorney wouldn't mind just looking at what are the options and legally what would the path be for an employee of a constitutional office to submit a concern. If it's not to the county, fine, then where is it? And that kind of summarizes. Are there any
Nope.
concerns with the county attorney looking into that?
Good.
Okay. All right. That is it. That's all I have. Yes, Commissioner Constantine.
Commissioner, I just wanted to piggyback on a couple of things you said, because it's important to reiterate. First of all, I know a lot of you are busy tomorrow, and tomorrow it's going to be touring and for the Florida Association of Counties, and many of you won't be able to do that. Thursday, all day, is going to be policy meetings, and if you can pop in at any one of that time, it's going to be kind of a committee of the whole, and so most of the commissioners will be there in the various policies. I know that our Secretary of Transportation, Jared Perdue, who came from District 5 as of late, is going to be there at 2:30 for a meeting with the Community Affairs and Community and Urban Affairs Committee, and each one of the committees are going to be meeting separately, so you could go to whatever committee. They're not going on simultaneously. They'll all be one, then another, then another. So it'll be going all day. The other thing that you mentioned, and I just wanted to bring it up, when you talked about leadership, and I was going to bring this up after the county manager went through the program, because I thought that he would have a keener insight in this. But before COVID, we had just started, and I think Mr. Hyde was part of it, we just started a Citizens Academy. And it was revised. We had it before. It had kind of like gone away, and then we had all talked about doing it again. And, I don't want to throw another burden on the staff right now. I know, our county manager and all the staff is trying to get themselves together, but I really think that would be something that would be beneficial to revise and to bring back, because I know that so many people told me, in those first couple of meetings, it was wonderful, they enjoyed it. But more importantly, just like the Commissioner Lockhart said, it really is something to get them involved in the county government. So that's all I wanted to say.
Just a warning, some of them might run for office after they do that.
Some may be in your chambers.
Can we put that in?
Yes.
Oh, gosh. Commissioner Herr?
I do want to just point out something that we approved today. It was time sensitive. I didn't pull the item consciously, but when we write contracts, we should always be looking for a termination clause and a termination for breach clause, two different things. And it is exceptionally important when we ask for a long-term agreement in exchange for a reduction in price to make sure that there's a termination for breach clause in there. And we had one that passed through today, and I did raise the question. I did communicate with the team that did it. It was a constitutional officer's agreement, and it was time-sensitive, so I didn't pull it, and the dollar amount is not gigantic. But as a vendor, when you ask for a multi-year agreement and you lock me into a fee, when I can't deliver on it and I know you still have to pay that fee, it opens up the opportunity to cut corners. And so we should not do that to ourselves. And I just thought I'd bring it up because I look for those types of termination clauses in our agreements too. I haven't noticed it. This one, it just was absent. And so I realize that, those things come to us for approval, but at the end of the day, we have to get business done, and therefore I let it pass. But I just want to put that out there as a best practice that should not be ignored.
That's not the first time.
So we'll look at that. Yeah, all right. We have no future agenda items, correct? Do we have any members of the public who wish to speak on non-agenda matters? Okay. Anyone who neglected to fill out a form who would like to address the board? All right. Well,
Melanie, thank you, and we'll miss you.
She'll still be here.
she won't be gone. So we actually are just going to recess our meeting this afternoon, and we'll reconvene at 5:30 for our public hearing on the budget. Right?
Yes.
Sounds good. 4:05.